Get ready to uncover the secrets of ancient Egypt's unsung heroes, the everyday folks who made this civilization thrive. While we've all heard about the epic lives of pharaohs and royals, it's time to dive into what daily life was like for the average Egyptian. From farmers to artisans, their stories are just as fascinating, but often overlooked in history books. Let's start by climbing Egypt's social pyramid, a system so rigid that it would blow your mind compared to our modern world, where everyone's equal under the law and has constitutional rights. Fasten your seatbelts, folks. Ancient Egypt's social structure was a whole different ballgame. It was like a colossal pyramid where each class played its unique role, but with one massive twist. The pharaohs and gods ruled supreme, above all laws. These divine leaders created the rules for everyone else to follow, and were treated like royalty or even deities themselves. They were the ultimate powerhouses, receiving reverence from every other class in society. Now, let's take a step down this social ladder and meet the nobility, the aristocrats of ancient Egypt. Let's dive deeper into Egypt's social hierarchy. Next up are the nobles. These affluent individuals held a significant chunk of the country's wealth, but remember, they still looked up to the pharaohs as their ultimate bosses. To maintain their status, the nobility often buttered them up with requests for favors, even divine ones. While the nobles did have to follow laws, their influence gave them some wiggle room. Now, let's shift our focus to the professionals. These rock stars of ancient Egypt included doctors, scientists, astrologists, technicians, specialists, and accountants who kept the empire running smoothly with their exceptional skills. Even if they weren't part of any noble family, these pros earned immense respect from everyone around them, those below in the social ladder, and even the higher-ups. As we keep climbing down the social ladder, we reach the artisans, sailors, and construction workers who brought ancient Egypt's grand vision to life. Think pyramids, tombs. These folks were the real MVPs behind the scenes. But here's a surprising twist. Even those constructing the mighty pyramids had it pretty good. They lived in decent quarters with all the amenities and enjoyed hearty diets that would have put today's prime cuts of beef to shame. Now, at the very bottom of our pyramid are the slaves, serfs, servants, farmers, and others who barely interacted with Egypt's royalty. While they fared better than their counterparts in other ancient empires, their lives were far from dignified, and we're still uncovering details about their day-to-day experiences. Let's talk about where our ancient Egyptian friends called home. The truth is, not every dwelling looked like a palace, although some did. Kings and queens, as well as wealthy nobles and certain professionals, lived in houses made of stone, the crème de la crème of ancient architecture that still stand tall today in cities like Luxor or Alexandria. But what about everyone else? For most Egyptians, life was more down to earth, literally. They resided in mud brick homes, with quality varying from cozy to cramped, depending on their social standing. And guess what? Many of these everyday people lived on farms along the Nile River, while others called a bustling city home, proving that ancient Egypt was more than just pyramids and pharaohs. You might think farm life was the only game in ancient Egypt, but not so fast. Many people actually lived smack dab in the middle of bustling cities, commuting daily to their rural plots. And if you were part of the elite, your pad could be a real palace, complete with servants' quarters, where slaves or staff members had it pretty good compared to others. These workers often enjoyed better living conditions than those not directly employed by the wealthy and powerful. One awesome example that's still standing is Dur el Medina, a workers' village where skilled laborers built the tombs of pharaohs, putting them on the social ladder above farmers, slaves, and servants. Can you picture it? These craftsmen lived in multi-story homes with big doors opening onto the main street, giving them a front row seat to daily village life. Let's take a peek inside these cool homes at Dur el Medina, the workers' village where pyramid builders lived large. Each house was like a little palace, with multiple bedrooms, a kitchen that rocked a built-in mud brick oven, and a genius ventilation system, a special matting on the roof to whisk away cooking smoke and smells. Plus, there were public areas for entertaining guests, storage space galore, and stairs leading up to the rooftop, a sweet spot for chillin' or socializing. Now, keep in mind these workers were living the good life compared to slaves and servants, but they still ranked below the elite. This shows just how prosperous ancient Egypt was, that even middle-class folks could enjoy some seriously comfy digs. And speaking of family, ancient Egyptians had some serious baby fever. Their high birth rate was thanks to the Nile River's bounty providing enough grub for a massive population. Here's a fresh take on that for your viewers. You know how we just talked about ancient Egyptians living large? Well, their population game was strong back then. They had one of the highest birth rates in the ancient world. But unlike other empires where most kids didn't make it past age 5, Egypt's bumper crop of kiddos helped put them on top globally. Family was super important to these folks, and having a big crew was actually seen as a good thing. In fact, some historians say that family planning even started in ancient Egypt. But their goal was to grow the family, not slow it down. And if you're wondering about birth control, there are hints that Egyptians might have been pioneers in that department too. Marriage was also a huge deal in Egyptian culture. It wasn't just a wedding, it was a major life commitment. Here's an updated version with a fresh spin in ancient Egypt. Marriage was the ultimate goal. Every woman, from goddesses to slaves, was expected to tie the knot eventually. And here's the thing without a husband, she just wasn't complete. For both boys and girls, the plan was to get hitched in their pre-teens or early teens and start building that family ASAP. Before they said I do, though, kids had some serious training ahead of them. Boys learned the ropes from dad, think carpentry, blacksmithing, and all sorts of other handy skills. Meanwhile, girls got schooled by mom on how to run a household like a pro. Once they were ready, it was time to wed and start the family cycle all over again. Talk about having great-great-grandparents young. When it came to married life, Egyptians had clear-cut roles. Men took care of business outside the home, while women kept things running smoothly from inside. Let's dive into how ancient Egyptians saw their roles. Men were expected to soak up the sun and work outdoors, which is why they're often depicted with darker skin in art. Meanwhile, women mostly stuck to the home front, handling all the household chores and becoming the ultimate bosses of the house. As a result, they got less sun exposure, which is why they're often shown with paler complexions. But here's the thing, because women were largely absent from public spaces, historians know way more about Egyptian men than women. It's like trying to read a book with mostly blank pages. Despite being part of a patriarchal society, ancient Egyptian women had some serious rights on paper. They could own property, make deals, and even become pharaohs. In theory, they weren't barred from any job, but in reality, most stuck to more traditional paths. Although we do know some super ambitious ladies who defied the odds and rose to incredible heights. Get ready for a wild ride through ancient Egyptian religion. It's like trying to untangle a giant ball of yarn. We still have so much to learn, but here's what we do know. This complex system was all-encompassing and basically required every single resident to be a part of it. With thousands of gods at their disposal, Egyptians had a deity for just about anything. Whether you were pregnant and needed some fertility magic from Taweret or had another reason to worship, there was a god for that. But here's the thing, these gods didn't all play on an even field. They had a strict pecking order with state gods at the top, endorsed by pharaohs and nobles. Then you had regional gods, each claiming their own patch of land. It's like ancient Egypt's version of a divine neighborhood watch. Let's dive deeper into the ancient Egyptian faith. We're about to explore some mind-blowing layers. Below those state gods and regional deities were demigods and supernatural beings, kind of like the gods' lesser-known cousins. Although not officially gods, they played a huge role in people's connections with the higher-ups on Mount Olympus. I mean, the divine realm. Now, about that afterlife, most historians think ancient Egyptians did believe in it. But here's where things get super interesting. We're still unsure if they thought of it as reincarnation back on Earth or a different plane altogether, like heaven or something more ominous. One thing's for sure though, the mummification process was considered key to making that afterlife journey, but sadly, only the rich could afford it, leaving most Egyptians buried in the desert sands. The mystery surrounding the Egyptian afterlife is still an ongoing debate, and who knows if we'll ever fully grasp what they really believed. Thanks for joining us on this epic quest through ancient Egypt. If you dug it, hit that thumbs up and subscribe for more captivating content.